So we have already studied bagging in regression trees and classification trees. Now we are going to study a new concept called boosting. Bagging and boosting both have one common principle, that is they are basically combining many weak classifiers to get one strong classifier. Okay, they are combining many weak classifiers into one strong classifier. What do I mean by a weak classifier and a strong classifier? In the earlier lecture, we saw the concept of ROC curve, okay, receiver operating characteristic curve. And we said that ideally the curve of this type is supposed to be a good one. Okay. And we said that area under curve should be as close to 1 as possible. If that happens, then we say that the classifier is good. By the way, we have to remember this entire discussion is for ROC curve thing is for binary classification only. Okay. So if I have some random classifier, like if I am tossing a coin and I am deciding whether something goes to class 1 or class 2, still I might get up to 50% accuracy. Okay. Or even if suppose I have two equal sized classes, and if I decide that okay, I will predict everything by one class, still I might get 50% accuracy. Okay. So some such bad classifiers can also have up to 50% area under curve. So these are known as weak classifiers. Okay, so anything above that would be considered a good classifier. This would actually be, it's a bad classifier. Ideally, you should reverse your predictions. Okay. So bagging, boosting are the procedures which combine many weak classifiers into one strong classifier. In case of regression, we can say they combine many weak predictive models into one strong predictive model. Okay. Many weak predictive models are combined into one strong predictive model. Now, in bagging, how is that achieved? We said that we fit B different trees to B different samples, so B bootstrap samples, and none of those trees are pruned. So we said that every tree is unpruned, means it's a complete tree. So technically that tree may not be very good on the test data because you are fitting a very big tree, means you are kind of overfitting. So the prediction wise accuracy of that tree may not be good. But still we keep them as it is because at the end when you average things out, we do end up getting good results. Okay. So that's why, because we are using unpruned trees in bagging, every single tree is a weak model. Okay. Every tree individually is a weak model, but on an average the errors tend to cancel out and it becomes a strong model. So the concept of boosting is also basically like that. You want to combine multiple weak models to get one strong model. But the similarities end there itself. The actual procedure and everything else is completely different. Only this basic thing, aggregating results from multiple models, is common. Okay. So some people also use the word ensemble learning. So you are kind of, aggregating predictions from multiple models to get one single prediction. Okay. But as I said, the similarities end there. So what do we do in boosting? First of all, in boosting there are no multiple samples. Okay. So now I am talking about boosting. So there are no multiple samples. Whatever you do on a single sample. Okay. As a result, what happens is, because you are doing things on a single sample, your trees are not independent. In bagging, what you do, you have sample 1 here. So this is bagging. So in bagging you have sample 1, sample 2 up to sample B. On sample 1 you fit tree 1, here you fit tree 2, here you fit tree B, and then you take average of the predictions over all these trees. Okay, so this tree 1 and tree 2 are actually kind of independent. Independent in a sense, yes, of course these samples share many observations, but whatever regressors were selected in T1, that has no effect on whatever was selected in T2 as a tree. Okay, if we condition on the observations, if we condition on the common observations, or if we condition on the original sample, then these two trees are independent. Whereas in boosting, because we are not using different samples, we are actually growing the same tree. So we are kind of building over the same tree. So let me describe what you do. So now I am describing in very layman terms. I am not giving you the accurate algorithm first. So suppose you have original data and you build a very small tree consisting of one split only. Okay, such a tree is known as stump. So stump is a tree which has only one split. So this is one tree. So what you do in boosting is you start with such tree. So you have one single tree fitted to your data. Then what you do, now you get some sort of residuals or some sort of weighted observations from this. So okay, I am talking about regression tree, so let me focus on residuals. So suppose I have x1, x2, xp and y. Y is my response, x1, x2, xp are regressors. So initially what we do is, okay, we fit a model for y using these regressors x1, x2, xp. So I get one single split, so I have some xi less than or equal to si as my splitting criterion. Using this tree, now I can predict my responses. So suppose y1 hat, y2 hat up to yn hat are the responses, and y1, y2, yn were original observations. Then by considering differences between them, I can get residuals epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon n. So now what we do, we use these residuals as kind of responses and fit one more such tree. So we use these as responses and fit one more tree, again of only say one length, means we have only one split. So it would have some xj less than or equal to sj as the splitting criterion. So what I am trying to do here is, suppose I am in a simple linear regression setup. So my model is y equal to beta naught plus beta 1x plus epsilon. So what we know is epsilon is kind of denoting the remaining effect, means by this model you are eliminating whatever effect x had on y, and whatever is remaining is in epsilon. So here what we are trying to do is, I have initially one single split, so I have one single model which is based only on this xi less than or equal to si. So whatever can be explained from my y dependent on this criterion xi less than or equal to si, that has already been explained by this split. Now whatever remains, so y minus y hat, so this y hat is coming from this. So this y hat is kind of denoting the part which is explained by this split, and now that y, now the original y minus that y hat gives me the part which is kind of unexplained by this split, which still remains to be explored. So that is my residual. So now I should try to answer, or I should try to explore that part only. I shouldn't try to model original y, because some part of y has already been explained, some part of variation in y has already been explained by this split, or some part of changes in y has already been explained by this. So now whatever still remains unexplained, we will try other variables or even other splits of this same variable on that. Okay, so now we'll have epsilon 1, epsilon 2, epsilon n, and we will try to have a model for those epsilons. So epsilon becomes a response, regressors stay the same, and we have again one split. So now we have original tree, and this tree is kind of built over that because it is using residuals coming from the original tree. See, that's why I was saying that the trees are not constructed independently. The tree kind of grows sequentially. Okay. Now we repeat the procedure. So now I have this as a new predictor. So the residuals remaining from this, I would split one more thing and I would have one more criterion and so on. Okay. This is the concept of boosting in regression trees. Is the concept clear to everyone? What I am doing is, I am going to have multiple small models. So every model has only one split, let us say. Sometimes even two splits are allowed. So this is stump, but sometimes you can have one more split. So here and here one more split. Okay, so this is actually known as D being equal to 1. So D is, depth of the tree. So depth of the tree is suppose 1. Okay. And so we are growing trees sequentially on the residuals. Okay, so now let us try to study the actual algorithm in slightly more detail. So let me write down the algorithm and we'll discuss the steps. So this is an algorithm for boosting in regression trees. Okay. So as I said, in the first step we have to take response as y. So we would set f hat x, that is the predicted value, as 0, and we have a new variable ri which is defined as yi, the response. This is for every I in training set. Okay, for all those observations which are in training set. In the next step, we are writing the repetitive part of the algorithm. So for small b equal to 1, 2 up to capital V, repeat 2 steps. And what are those 2 steps? First step is fit a tree f hat b, because fit means basically you predict. So fit a tree f hat b with d splits. We saw d is the depth of the tree. So if there is only one split, you get 2 leaf nodes, right? So d splits would result in d plus 1 terminal or leaf nodes. So fit a tree with d splits to the data x comma r. So x is the regressor part and r is the response part. Okay. Then update f hat, the fitted value, by adding in a shrunken version of the new tree. See, this is something different. We are shrinking the estimates and then adding it. So shrunken version of the new tree. We'll discuss why this is needed. So my f hat x becomes original f hat x plus lambda times the latest prediction from the bth tree. Okay, lambda times the latest prediction from the bth tree. Then we have to update residuals also, because now we have fitted something from residuals, we have to remove that part. So update the residuals as ri as old ri minus lambda f hat bx, because our prediction is getting increased by this. From residual we have to subtract exactly that part. Makes sense? Okay, so these 3 steps A, B, C, we are going to repeat b times. So initially we start with ri equal to yi. So we fit a tree to actual x and y. We get some small tree. Then we update the fitted value by original fitted value. Original fitted value initially is 0. So basically we will just take lambda into the fitted value of the first tree, but at the next steps it's going to get added and residuals will get updated, and with those residuals as response we would go to step A. Okay, so this is same as what I described, and the final prediction or the final fit is known as output. So output in this boosted model would be f hat x equal to sum over I going from 1 to, okay, let me use b again. So sum over b going from 1 to b lambda f hat b x, because that is how we were actually predicting. Initial is anyway 0. Initial prediction is anyway 0. So my first prediction is lambda f hat 1x. Next prediction would be lambda f hat 1x plus lambda f hat 2x and so on. Okay. Now what is lambda? So we are saying it's kind of shrinking. So lambda is known as shrinkage parameter. Now first of all, why is it known as shrinkage parameter? Because it is always going to be less than 1. Basically it is always going to be between 0 and 1. It's going to be positive and less than 1. Generally accepted values of lambda are 0.01 or 0.001, etc. So what we are doing, we are including the new prediction with only a portion of the new prediction, right? So this is f hat x, so we are kind of including only a portion of the new prediction. Okay, so this is known as slow learning. So we are not relying too much on any tree from every, so it's like, you know, you talk to many people but you are not taking anyone's advice completely. You are just, you know, taking a portion of advice from each of them, and finally you have some sort of really good advice. You have listened to each one of them, but of course if you had taken someone's complete advice, it could probably have gone wrong. But you are taking, you know, bits and pieces from each person, and then finally you are building something good, something solid. So this is similar. So this is known as slow learning. So see, because my lambda is going to be very small, like 0.001, my predictions would change very slowly. With every tree, my predictions would change very slowly. Hence we say that the tree is learning very slowly. And that is actually the advantage of boosting, because it has been proved theoretically that slow learning generally leads to better learning. You might have experienced this in your actual academic learning also. When you study things just before internal, you know, in 24 hours when you try to cram 200 pages in your brain, you don't learn much. Whereas if those same 200 pages you split over the period of 6 months and study, you end up learning better. Okay, so the same thing happens in the algorithms also. Slow learning generally leads to better learning. That's why this lambda is coming into picture. So from every tree you are changing things only slightly. So even if individual tree is bad, its badness is not affecting your final prediction too much, because you are taking only a small portion from each tree. And because you are modeling residuals, you are kind of reaching towards the actual value in the long run, because every time you are focusing only on the residuals. So if residual is large, then you would realize that okay, you still need to you still need to build many trees. So because you are modeling residuals, so every time the unexplained portion gets slightly more explained, and hence finally you tend to explain almost entire thing and you do get quite good results. Is it okay? So in fact, because of this slow learning business, for convergence, not for convergence. So because of this slow learning business, you need B to be very large, because then only you get decent predictions. So if lambda is small, then B has to be very large, then only you will reach near the prediction. That is, your residuals will go below a certain threshold. Okay, it's kind of like convergence. Is it okay? Okay. Now, I said that interaction depth is generally taken as 1, which is known as stump, or at the most 2. Generally in boosted trees, individual trees you never go beyond 2. Okay, most of the times. Why? Because smaller trees give better interpretation. Okay, and this D is also known as interaction depth, not just depth. Sometimes it is called as just depth, but it is also known as interaction depth. Why interaction depth? Let me explain. Suppose I have one node here, then you split it into two nodes, and suppose this gets split further into 2. Okay, so my D has become 2. So because I have 2 levels here, 1 and 2. So this splitting is suppose based on x3 less than or equal to s3, and this is say x4 less than or equal to s4. So how do I describe my final leaf node? So this node I will be describing as x3 less than or equal to s3 and x4 greater than s4. So basically this node is coming from interaction of x3 and x4. Okay, hence D is known as interaction depth also. So favoring D equal to 1 is useful in that sense also, because if in every tree D is 1, in every tree your criterion depends on single variable only. Okay, and your final prediction is just scaled addition of those single variable things. You have just lambda sitting over here, so it kind of becomes a linear model. Okay, because you have some x1 less than or equal to something, maybe some x3 less than or equal to something, say x10 less than or equal to something. You never have x1 and x3, or say x3 and x4 together. So this becomes a linear model, and hence it's very easy to interpret the final model also. Okay, because you are adding predictions. Of course lambda is sitting there, I am not removing lambda. Okay, so these are the reasons why generally smaller trees are preferred, because they lead to better interpretation. And as I said, the shrinkage parameter is used because you want the algorithm to learn things slowly, because slow learning leads to better learning. In fact, on some data sets this boosting thing works better than even say random forest. Okay, so today I will stop discussion about boosting in regression trees. We also have to study boosting in classification trees, so we'll do that in the next lecture. Thank you.